Welcome to Tactical Talk. This is Zain. Today, the topic of our show is answering some misconceptions regarding the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, CPEC. Today, the guest of our show is Yasir Masood. He is a scholar on the subject of Sino-Pak relations and also the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. He's also the head of the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor desk at Tactical Talk Network. Welcome to our show, Yasir. This is Zain Khan. It is a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you very much, Zain.
I'd like to get to the first question. Why is CPEC glorified? Why do experts attribute slogans to the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor like the game changer, or as I like to call it, the next big thing? And also tell us, when did CPEC start? When was it initiated? Tell us a little more about these two questions.
Well, first of all, thank you, Zain Khan, for having me on the show. It's a great matter of pleasure and honor for me to be with you. When we talk about CPEC, I think it is important to understand for the common masses about the reality of CPEC. When the idea was conceived in 2013, and at that time, Pakistan was going through a very critical phase of its history. For example, we were confronted with multiple issues like we had acute energy shortfall, and then because of that, our industry was relocating. Not only that, the security situation like extremism, terrorism, and militancy was quite an issue at that time. So when we talk about these issues, it is also important to understand that about energy, it is said that when energy goes, the economy goes higher. So because of energy shortfalls, what was happening? There was no economic activity in Pakistan. As I mentioned, that industry was relocating because our local entrepreneurs, they were relocating to the neighboring countries, if we recall, like India, like Bangladesh, like other African countries for that matter. So the economic activity was completely choked out. And there was no country under the sun which was actually trying to or stepping up invest in Pakistan. Why we glorify CPEC that much? Because China has invested at a time, because Pakistan was going through a very critical phase of its history, and second, it was direly needed for Pakistan's economy. And that is why we have attached a number of slogans to the concept of CPEC, because it came as a blessing. And it came at a very right time when no other country was investing in Pakistan. So Chinese government and Chinese entrepreneurs have got the vote of confidence. They won this vote of confidence from the government of Pakistan and also from the people of Pakistan. Over the years, these kind of slogans, like as we call it, CPEC as a linchpin of Belt and Road Initiative, or a crown of Belt and Road Initiative. All these slogans matter much, not only to Pakistan, but also to the Chinese side as well.
Okay, I'd like to get to a very important question. Which countries are against the CPEC, the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor? And also, what are the reasons behind their disliking this mega project?
Well, Zain, it's a very important question. Since the idea was conceived in 2013 about CPEC, there are a lot of opposition. And this opposition is actually, we can bifurcate it in two ways. One is internal opposition, one is external opposition. But even then, this internal opposition has a strong bondage with the external one. Since I'm working with the CPEC official portfolio for the last 3 years or so, I have keenly observed this kind of opposition of CPEC. In fact, one of the important mandate of our think tank is to bring the reality of CPEC in front of the masses. Actually, when we see it through the prism of geopolitics or geoeconomics or geostrategic, it is important to understand that basically China-Pakistan Economic Corridor is a geoeconomic project. But for some reason, the opposers or the disparagers of CPEC have pushed it to the concept, or tried to manipulate the concept and named it or labeled it as a geopolitical or a geostrategic concept. Mainly, there are two countries which we have seen, which we have observed and witnessed at the same time. They are opposing CPEC. One is India, and the other one is United States of America, and both have separate rationale or reasons of opposing CPEC. Let me start with India first. That why India is opposing CPEC and how United States of America is anti-CPEC. Actually, when it comes to geopolitics or geostrategic realm, it is also important to understand that it's India is opposing CPEC because of number of factors. One, if we see that in the previous government of Modi's time, they have actually initiated a kind of concept, a theory of isolationism against Pakistan, where India wanted to isolate Pakistan diplomatically and economically. CPEC came as a harbinger of change to Pakistan. One, India is opposing CPEC because of the huge importance of Gwadar. Because as we know, as a matter of fact, that the geostrategic location of Gwadar is very important. And that's where it is going to outnumber and all the ports which are existing in India because of its geostrategic location. One, it is because of the Gwadar. The second is India wants to tries to be a fake hegemon in the region, and that is why they perceive CPEC as a concept which is going to give a big boost to Pakistan's economy. Once CPEC give leverage to Pakistan's economic accentuation, then Pakistan will have, its importance internationally because of better geoeconomic and because of better geostrategic and geopolitical positioning. And that is why India is intimidated that once Pakistan's have a better international leverage, then Pakistan will talk about Kashmir, then Pakistan can undo all those negative, designs which are emanating from India. So by all means, these are the factors by which India is opposing CPEC. Let me mention here that it is any country's right to pursue its national interest, be it India or Pakistan or any other country for that matter. So CPEC, we call it as a game changer. We believe that it is going to change the destiny of Pakistan. So that is why we follow it. That is why we have all the positivities attached to CPEC. Now we are following it because this is our national interest. Whatever the national interest of India is, but it should not be at the detriment of defaming any other project, especially like an economic project. This is a world of multipolar world order where lots of states, they are actually putting their efforts together so that they can have economic progress in the region. But because of CPEC, we have seen that India is not only opposing CPEC, but becoming a regional thorn for the regional progress and prosperity. Now, it is also important to understand that why United States of America is opposing CPEC. One, they have a very strategic bond with India at the moment. They have soaring relations, which is absolutely fine. But the problem gets worsened because the United States of America is giving enough leverage to India, to counter the Chinese ambitions and the Chinese designs. The Chinese designs are actually based on economic progress. And that is why, because of this strong strategic bond with India, United States of America is opposing CPEC because they see Chinese as a competitor, as a global competitor, and then giving India a much leverage to oppose CPEC. United States of America, when we call that it is opposing CPEC, it is actually opposing Belt and Road Initiative as well at the global canvas. So these are the reasons that what we have witnessed over the years, that these two, India is a regional hegemon, is opposing CPEC, and United States of America is a global hegemon. They are opposing CPEC as well.
Okay, I want to ask my favorite question, and we can do a whole show on this question, the topic related to this question. But I'd like you to briefly answer this. What's this whole narrative regarding debt trap that some critics of the CPEC like to associate CPEC by debt trap? What is this narrative about?
Well, Zain, it's a very important question and a pertinent one because we have seen since the inception of Belt and Road Initiative, simultaneously we have observed that this new kind of a term has been coined and attached with the concept of Belt and Road Initiative. And same goes for CPEC and same goes for any other project which has been initiated and any other part regarding under the ambit of Belt and Road Initiative. It is important for us to understand that what this debt trap is all about, from where it has been coined, what are the real connotations which are attached with with the debt trap. Let me tell you that all those forces which are opposing the Belt and Road Initiative or CPEC for that matter, or any other project which comes under BRI, these are some of the terminologies which have been attached deliberately to defame the whole concept of Belt and Road Initiative. The statistics otherwise show that more than 95% of Belt and Road Initiative projects are either executed successfully or under the implementation procedure in a very successful manner. So calling these projects debt trap is just a bizarre kind of tactics which has been especially came from the Western countries to defame the progress of Belt and Road Initiative. And why? Because this is a kind of a concept which is huge and gigantic in its nature. And also this is going to transform the destiny of the developing countries. And that's where it is very important. And that's where it is pinching to those powers which have been unable to initiate this kind of a project like Belt and Road Initiative, not only in its size but also in its kind of the theory and the practice which it has for the developing and underdeveloping states. When it comes to the concept that whether debt trap should be attributed to CPEC or whether it is increasing Pakistan's debt burden, these are all kind of, sort of theories which does not have any substance to its slogans. Because the reason is that, let me tell you, Pakistan owes around 106 billion of foreign debt at the moment. And if we calculate the CPEC debt, which incurs because of CPEC, is only about $6 billion with 2% interest rate. And the debt return would start from 2021. So in simpler terms, because this is can be a bit complicated for the common people, for the naive people to understand the nitty-gritty of the debt and its finances. So let me tell you in simpler terms that more than 80% of the CPEC projects are actually the foreign direct investment, and less than 20% is the debt part. Now, why this debt trap has gone, is being so much popular or being injected into the Pakistani masses or in the minds of Pakistan? Because this is again a concept which has been coined by India, and then it has been injected into the people's mind just to defame the concept of CPEC and nothing else. The reality is completely the other way around, which I have even mentioned in the statistics.
Okay, in your opinion, do you think CPEC is causing security issues in the region, or do you think the contrary? Do you think that the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor is strengthening the security situation within the region?
Well, first of all, CPEC is not causing any kind of insecurity. There are no insecurity kind of strings are attached to CPEC or even the Belt and Road Initiative for that matter. I believe that China has exercised this kind of a concept where they have undermined these insecurities through the economic accentuation and economic progress over the years. And that has been, the insecurities have been dealt elsewhere in the world through the economic progress and prosperity. One major factor of insecurity is the depravity of the masses. And this also happens in Pakistan, in some parts of Pakistan, especially in the interior parts of Balochistan or Fata or elsewhere, in the far-flung areas where the development has not been zoomed on in yet. So I believe that these are some of the factors, some of the major factors that out of sheer depravity people go towards militancy, extremism, and terrorism, and then they become a falling prey to and fall into those hands where they have been mishandled and misused against the state. So CPAC, when we call it that this is a harbinger of change, this is going to bring more security and more economic progress to the region. So it is understood that now Pakistan is being labeled and called as the zipper of Eurasia. Pakistan has its strategic importance. Pakistan has its political importance, and Pakistan has now came under the ambit of geo-economic importance through the China-Pakistan economic corridor. So I believe that over the period of time, it is going to bring more prosperity to the common masses. People, the livelihood of the people will definitely improve because of the CPEC projects and because of its positive fruits, which will definitely take its time because we as a nation sometimes, we believe things to be happen in an overnight, which obviously it takes its time when it comes to an economic activity like CPEC. Uh, it is definitely, strengthening the securitization process of this whole region. And let me tell you that I'm also part of the track to diplomacy between China, Pakistan, and Afghanistan. So I've been invited a number of times to Beijing, and eh, China is also learning from the anti-terrorism policy of Pakistan, because when we see that when the CPEC projects were initiated back in 2013, Pakistan had a go against militancy and extremism. And Pakistan has unprecedented successes against the militancy, extremism, and terrorism in this region. And these were organic, actually, initiatives which Pakistan has taken. And let me tell you that no country in the world has come out of the problems of extremism and terrorism the way Pakistan did, especially in such short span of time. Simultaneously, Pakistan pushed this concept of CPAC, of geo-economic progress, to bring more prosperity to the common people. So, by all means, if I foresee 5 years on, Pakistan would be a much, secure country. Pakistan has already, as I mentioned, has achieved a lot. The security situation is more than 90% is better in Pakistan now, and that is why the witness is that lots of countries, they are cozying up towards Pakistan, and they are now have the confidence to invest in Pakistan, be it private entrepreneurs, be it the different countries or their governments.
Let's get to the last question. Why is a major chunk of the mainstream media so anti-BRI, the Belt and Road Initiative by China, and also so anti-CPEC, the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor? And what measures are needed to project the reality of CPEC and the BRI?
Well, it is also, I think, I personally have written about this a lot and been defeating this kind of a narrative, which is anti-CPAC, which is on purpose being injected into the people's mind. This whole concept of China-Pakistan Economic Corridor or Belt and Road Initiative is under the hybrid warfare, or in other words, we call it fifth generation warfare. Or these are some of the perception management techniques which are used in this day and age. And also, In other words, we call it a narrative building. So when we call it a narrative building, then you must know that United States of America or other Western powers, they before achieving any task or before achieving any motive, they create a certain kind of a narrative, uh, which is embedded into the people's mind so much that people believe, in the reality of it. For example, like before having a go at Iraq by the United States of America, or even Afghanistan for that matter, the whole concept of 9/11, a narrative, a global narrative was built by United States of America for the people to understand and to bring a logic to its own nefarious designs and actions. And developed countries, they spent a huge sum on the narrative building or on the perception management so that they can achieve their task. Um, this hybrid warfare, as I have mentioned in the first question, or that it is being this kind of a negative, narrative is being injected either by India or United States of America for that matter, and they definitely have their own reasons. But what we need to do is, and what are the actually the tools by which they are doing it? I think the most horrendous tool is the social media. It has been proved to be a lethal, tool by which this kind of negativity is being injected into the people's minds, so that they can turn against something which is otherwise very positive in its meaning and in its application for the people of Pakistan, like China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, for that matter. And what happened because of this kind of an artificial kind of narrative, which are being driven from somewhere else, and which are being uh, you know injected or imposed upon us, we have forgotten about those legitimate concerns, or about those legitimate uh, questions through which we could have addressed, and those questions or those concepts could have been utilized for the improvement of CPEC for that matter. So the legitimate concerns were diluted, and we have actually gone out to defend those narratives which does not even belong to us, which are traveled from somewhere, which are being injected for a particular cause. Um, and what happened? The most worst part is that some of the journos and some of the people in Pakistan have embraced those narratives, which is against our national interest, which is against the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. And by embracing those kind of narratives, they have written a number of times by twisting the facts and figures of CPEC finances, or by attaching China-Pakistan Economic Corridor with other kind of negativity, and has damaged to some extent the positivity of CPEC. But I tell you what, that these are few chunk of society which might think negative about CPEC. There is a huge consensus of on the positivity of CPEC, be it the different stakeholders when we talk to them, or be for that matter the educated lot of Pakistan. They have a huge confidence in the positivity of CPEC. They have witnessed the progress and growth of CPEC, and they're looking forward. They're keen that more can be reaped through the positive aspects of CPEC. Now, what needs to be done? For example, a program like this, in which you have invited me, I think you are doing a great job by bringing and the reality of CPEC. And this is the way out. We have to work on the same tools through which our enemies have, they're trying to defame the whole concept of CPEC. We are going to work on the same tools. The only difference is that those narratives which are being emanated from elsewhere, they're based on fabricated facts and figures. On part of us, we have to bring reality to the surface, so that people should understand the not only the reality of CPEC, but the blessings which are attached with the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. Government has done a lot in that, to bring reality in front of the masses by writing the true narrative of CPEC, But I think so. This that it's not only under the control of the government to counter this these kind of nefarious designs which are emanating from elsewhere. I think the civil society of Pakistan, academia, and different think tanks, TV channels for that matter, and media in particular, especially like social media, print media, and electronic media, they have to join their acts together, they have to join their heads together to come up and bring the reality of CPAC in front of the masses, because this is our national moral obligation to bring reality of the CPAC in front of the masses. So the more we disseminate, the more media teams we manage under the government control or under the private control, or the private parties can come up, and they're doing a lot in that sense. So people have started realizing that these are negative concepts of CPAC, and now people have started defending on its own as well. So it's a very positive sign. So I believe that the more we disseminate the positivity and the reality of CPAC based on the facts and figures, I think we would be able to defeat these kinds of negativity of CPAC, which is emanating from the enemies of Pakistan.
Thank you so much, Yasir Masood, for being on Tactical Talk. It was a pleasure having you.
My pleasure, Zain. It was really an honor to be with you.
This was Yasir Masood, a scholar on the subject of Sino-Pak relations and also a scholar on the China-Pakistan economic corridor. We were discussing, answering misconceptions regarding CPEC. Until the next episode of Tactical Talk, this is Zain Khan. Take care and goodbye.